Hello, everyone. Welcome to our October video ministry update. Just wanted to make sure and explain before we get into our update this month that this is something we're doing additional to our regular prayer letter, not to replace our prayer letter. Make sure there's no confusion on that part. And we will be sending also our prayer letter, so that if you'd like to print that off and have that, you can. I'll probably send it in two different emails, two different posts separate. So one will be the video, one will be our prayer letter that you can get. You can use either both or one, whichever is best for you. But just wanted to keep you up to date with what's going on with us and what's going on in the ministry there in Bolivia. And just to realize that a lot of things that are going on right now are very important for the future of Bolivia. A lot of things that are happening. About this time last year, we had elections in Bolivia, as some of you might remember. And during that time, it was kind of a difficult time in that the elections ended up with protests, and most of the country went to the streets and began to protest, began to block the streets and everything. And it got to the point to where the president at that time fled the country. The president at that time was actually trying to go for his third or maybe even fourth, I guess it was his third full term, which the Constitution basically did not allow. But he went out anyway to become president, and that really upset the people. So they protested. He eventually fled from the country, fled first to Cuba, and then took exile, or he took refuge in Argentina. Well, this month in October, we have our elections to replace those elections from last year. We had an intern president that has been standing in for this year, and she has now stepped down, and the elections will be the middle of this month, coming up really soon, the 18th of this month. And so we'd like to ask you to really pray for those elections and pray that the Lord's will would be done, because it will very likely determine the future of Bolivia. If the former government, or the type of government that gets in, or that was in, gets back in, that could affect a lot of what the church does, a lot of the ministry there, and even the work of the Lord all over the country. The former president has already said if his political party wins during the elections, the next day he will be back in Bolivia, because he's not allowed to come back in Bolivia at this time. And basically, a lot of the things that were going on before this, the type of government, the socialism slash communism that was taking place, much of what you see in Venezuela, wasn't necessarily restricting what we did as missionaries or restricting the churches, but little by little passing laws to control and to suppress what the churches were doing. And of course, who knows how far that could be taken, and especially if the government gets back in this next term, that could be very detrimental to the churches. So we're praying that the Lord's will would be done, and that they will get a president and a government that will actually help the furtherance of the gospel instead of hinder the furtherance of the gospel. Another thing that we're mentioning for our ministry update this time is the importance of what's being done there in Bolivia, and the men and women that are being trained for the ministry, and how that will affect the future of Bolivia. From the beginning of our ministry, our plan, our goal, and our desire has always been to train Bolivian men and women so that they could reach their own people with the gospel. And I think that task is probably even more relevant now, knowing that there is so much at stake with all the virus that's been going on there, all the difficulties they've had, the elections that are coming up, the importance of having these people trained to be able to do the ministry on their own. And that's what we've been working hard at, been working extra at, especially here recently. We just started our third trimester for this year in the Bible college there, and we were able to see a good number of people taking the classes, just like the last two. And also, I'm even offering an extra correspondence course for some of the men who are wanting to move a little more quickly in their studies and get done quicker and advance quicker in their studies. And I'm doing a correspondence course with them so that they won't have to spend necessarily that time in class, but they can do the work on their own and work with me on that. I'm also starting to meet with some of the men that are preparing for the ministry there, and we're reading through certain books, and they're reading the book, and we're talking about what they've read and how those things apply in their lives, and trying to help them to grow personally grow in their B level in their lives so that they can be more prepared for the ministry that they will be doing there in the future. And then along with that, we have plans to begin to meet as a group again with all the pastors and the leaders, mostly the pastors and the students that are there, and to begin to try to encourage them, help them in their growth so that they will grow spiritually in their lives and be more prepared. The whole desire of all that we're doing is so that we can have them more and more prepared for what the future holds, more prepared to serve God, more prepared to continue on the ministry there, more prepared to do more for God in the future so that we can reach more people, start more churches, train more people, and see the gospel go forth all over Bolivia. And so we're asking that you would pray that God would raise up laborers there in Bolivia, continue to call men to the ministry so that we can train them and prepare them for what God has for them. And then not only that, also not only on that side, but on this side here, the burden that's on our shoulders and how that will affect the future of Bolivia. The Lord's really blessed us since we've been back here in the U.S., been traveling a lot, visiting a lot of churches, and we've had some that have canceled the meetings because of the virus, or have had to cancel the meetings because of the virus and things going on. But we've been in some really great churches, great meetings. We've had several churches that have decided to partner with us and the ministry there in Bolivia, so that's very exciting. Over the next month and a half or so, we'll be traveling just about nonstop till probably the first, second, third week of November. And so we're going to be very busy. Would ask that you'd pray for traveling mercies. The Lord would continue to watch over us, keep us safe, but also that He would touch people's hearts that would be willing to get involved, to have a part in what we're doing there in Bolivia, so that we can be more capable and be able to do more in the ministry there and help start more churches and help see more people reached with the gospel at that time. As we mentioned before, we're also praying that God would raise up laborers on this side so that they can take the gospel and help us go to Bolivia. So we're praying that God would raise up families here in the United States to be missionaries to Bolivia, to South America, and around the world so that we can reach them with the gospel. So please pray for us. Pray for the upcoming elections there in Bolivia that are going to be very, very important to its future. Pray for the men and women that are preparing for the ministry there, that God would continue to work in their lives. He will continue to raise up many more for the ministry, and that the Lord would help many of the churches, many of the people, the things that are being faced here in the United States. God will continue to bless us here as we can see laborers not only raised up there in Bolivia, but also laborers here in the United States raised up to go out into the harvest that is truly ready and is truly plenteous to reach many people with the gospel. Thank you so much for praying for us. Thank you so much for all that you do for us and the ministry there in Bolivia. We know that one day we'll be able to stand before the Lord and we'll know that it's all been worth it. Thank you very much.